in order to add a second player, rather to give the second player his own character, we can just first of all duplicate this one. Alright, so we have our first mage, we have our second mage, and the only change we have to make here is to change from default owner from 1 to default owner 3. Because remember, the commander on the second index is actually the AI, so we have 1 and 3 are the player characters. The second little bit of a problem we have is actually the HUD. So the issue here is that we set the HUD to follow player character. Actually, let's rename this. Let's call this guy Mage 2. Let's call this guy Mage 1. So if we look at our HUD, we find out that we're going to be following, the camera is going to be following Mage 1. And that's going to be true for both players, which is obviously not what we want. The thing is, there's no static way of setting which player we should follow. So I'm actually going to set that to none. And we're going to have to do this in code. Furthermore, if we go to our game start script, we'll notice that we had a player object reference here, and basically we gave our player starting items. So we're going to change that to player character 1, and we're going to add another one for the second player, player character 2. And going back here, we'll drag mage 1 here, we'll drag mage 2 here. And the rest is the same. Again, we have to make a little bit of a change here. What we will do is for each actually, I'll just copy paste this for now. And it may be that we're playing without the player character too, so we'll do this check too. We'll make sure that the player character actually exists, and we'll make sure that yeah, no, that'll be enough. So we'll actually make sure the second player exists before giving him the items. With that said, I can hit play. Oh, right, and so my camera is all messed up because I actually did not add the code to handle that. And to add that piece of code, what we can do is, just on our game start script, we can do, so we can let's check if the player 1 is the local commander, and if it is, then we can just set the follow object manually. And we can do the same thing over here. Space that out a little bit. So now when we start player 1, ooh, we have a little bit of an error. Line 27. So basically, our error uh, states that a unit has been removed because the commander didn't exist, and that's true for now because we're just sort of testing it out. We didn't have another player connect, but other than that, we've got everything sort of working exactly as before. But now a second player can also join us. So let's take a look at that. We can do build and run. Let's go to game, maximize on play. Alright. So we're going to host on the right side, join, create the AI, which is going to handle all the units. Hit start, and both entities are formed. So on the right side, I control this character, and on the left side, I control this character. The two characters are synchronized, so let's use Unity's built-in network emulation, set it up to ISDN, which is, I don't even think is used anymore. And we can see that everything looks still pretty okay. We can also look at the stats and see that, I mean, it's pretty low. In fact, I think the network emulation might not even be working because it should really be simulating some packet loss, but it's not. And that's, I think, more an issue with Unity rather than the framework. But I've tested it over laggy connections as much as 1,000 milliseconds, and the lag compensation works fairly well. And there it is, a very simple multiplayer game. So I'm going to add more things to this project. Namely, I'm going to add probably another skill and more pieces of armor, just to kind of flesh out the whole concept a little bit more. But the code isn't going to be much, and it should all look pretty familiar. And that'll conclude the tutorials on the framework, and at least how it works in a basic setting anyway.